Obsidian Entertainment remains one of my favorite game developers of all time. I've loved their work ever since I was a little kid playing Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, and that love was solidified when I played Fallout New Vegas in my teenage years. They've been busy as ever, releasing not one, not two, but 3 games this year alone. We have the Outer Worlds coming out in October, which is shaping up to be their biggest game yet, Grounded 2, which came out in July, and back in February, the game that this video is about, Avowed. I think this game flew slightly under the radar for reasons I'll get into here in a second. With that said, let's jump right into it.
But let's not dwell on unpleasant matters.
Hi, I'm Mason. You're watching Amateur Game Review. Let's talk about Avowed. When the initial teaser trailer for Avowed dropped back in 2021, I was astounded. My favorite developer is making a first-person RPG in the vein of The Elder Scrolls. On paper, that sounds absolutely perfect. Then Avowed came out 4 years later, and while there's nothing horribly wrong with Avowed, it's most certainly not a Game of the Year contender. But that's okay. Not everything we play needs to be a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. However, even my opinion towards Avowed was skewed because it released between not just the fantastic Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, but Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and a surprise release of a remastered Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. That's 3 amazing games all crammed together within a short time span, meaning Avowed really didn't get a fair chance. It's gotten a few major updates since its release, so I thought now was the perfect time to give Avowed a fair chance. But before we get into that, what is this game about? Avowed takes place in the Living Lands, a remote, untamed place in the world of the Aura. If that sounds familiar to you, it's because Avowed takes place in the same universe as Obsidian's Pillars of Eternity series. If you like CRPGs, I highly recommend checking those games out as well, but they're not necessary to play Avowed. The Living Lands might just be one of the most bizarre yet beautiful locations I've ever seen in a fantasy game to date. It felt like I was exploring a whole new frontier filled with lush neon flora, ancient ruins claimed by creatures infused with magic fungi, and zombies doing farm work. It's all very strange, and that's the reason you're there in the first place. You play as the Envoy, an Imperial agent sent to the Living Lands in order to investigate a plague known as the Dream Scourge, a fungal, soul-twisting affliction that has the entire island in a chokehold. Oh, and you die within the first hour, only to be resurrected by a god living in your head. And all of this leads to many ethical choices you'll have to make. Some genuinely surprised me. I had to go back a couple of saves because I royally messed up. I mean, I caused a whole town to be burnt to the ground. However, as intriguing as Avowed can be, I was left with wanting more. I felt that the story overall played itself too safe for its own good. It flirts around with these big existential ideas like what's the nature of a soul, or what even is a soul to begin with, or the ethics of imperialism on the Living Lands. It's the kind of story that feels like it's always about to go off the rails in a good way, but then it pulls it back to keep itself grounded, and I think it's a little too grounded. You can feel Obsidian trying to keep the game accessible for new players, and that means the weirder, darker, or more morally gray choices get smoothed out. With that said, the world building is as impressive as ever, and the story is engaging despite its flaws. However, my biggest complaint with the writing involves the characters you bring into your party. They're not inherently bad, they're just bland. The first party member you encounter, Kai, I had high hopes for. If you've played Mass Effect, you can tell he's designed to be Avowed's Garrus. And that's not just because they share the same voice actor, but he falls short of the real Garrus. He's essentially the Walmart brand Garrus. And I'm not just saying that because he's blue. As for the rest of the party, you have an angry dwarf, a mage who's an outcast, and a furry. It's a shame they turned out the way they did. Some of the inter-party dialogue while exploring or hanging around in camp made me chuckle at times, but overall, something just didn't click with me. It's like they were written around tropes instead of personalities, and in a game where story and choices are central, that's a bit of a letdown.
Well, I must say I'm very disappointed in you boys.
When it comes to gameplay, this is probably Obsidian's smoothest game yet, and honestly, that surprised me. First-person melee combat is hard to get right. A lot of games try, and most miss the mark, but Avowed really nails the fundamentals. The combat feels like a natural evolution of Skyrim systems. It's familiar, but very refined. At its core, Avowed is a skill-based action RPG dealing with cooldowns and dodging or parrying enemy attacks, all with a very flexible build system that you can respec and experiment with at any time. In fact, the game encourages you to do just that. Whether you want to swing a sword, cast spells, dual-wield pistols, or do a mix of all three, You're free to shift your playstyle as you're able to use any weapon type at any time. It's safe to say the combat is solid, but the fights do grow monotonous due to the lack of enemy variety. You're mostly going to be up against spiders, beetles, and skeletons in every battle.
Envoy! Hey, you. You're finally awake.
Now, despite comparisons others and even myself have made, Avowed isn't a huge open world game like The Elder Scrolls or Fallout. Instead, it uses a hub-based world structure, and I think that was the right call. Each region is a self-contained zone, and while they aren't massive, they're densely packed and expertly designed. Think The Outer Worlds, but with a serious step up in quality and creativity. What stood out the most was how Avowed plays with verticality and layered exploration in its level design. It was like I was playing a first-person Assassin's Creed with all of the parkour I was doing. I enjoyed every second of it. You'll spot a chest hanging off a ledge and spend 10 minutes trying to find a way up there, only to discover a hidden room, a cave, all packed with some great environmental storytelling or some clever environmental puzzle along the way. It's rewarding without feeling tedious. Speaking of the environmental puzzles, I was super impressed with them. You're able to use spells or special grenade types to freeze water to cross a river, use fire to burn cobwebs, or an old-fashioned grenade to blow up some loose blocks. This level and puzzle design is probably one of Avowed's strongest points, and I hope to see more of this in the Outer Worlds too. And going back to the companions, this is really where they get to shine. Yes, they can fight fairly well, but Kai can shoot fire at obstacles and Yatsuli the furry can uncover illusions that hinder your exploration. Speaking of bland companions, there's crafting involved as well, and it's just there. You gather materials and upgrade your favorite piece of gear like every other RPG you've played. It doesn't do anything new, doesn't break the mold, and really that's Avowed's downfall. It doesn't do anything new. Many people expected Avowed to be Obsidian's answer to Skyrim, and honestly, I can't fault them for that. I thought the same thing when I first saw the teaser. It has the first-person combat, the grand fantasy setting, but once you play it, you realize it's not trying to be Skyrim, and it's definitely not out to reinvent the wheel. What Avowed offers, instead, is a solid fantasy adventure with surprisingly smooth and flexible combat, all tied together with incredible world building and a story that, while not groundbreaking, still kept me engaged from start to finish. It's the kind of game that rewards exploration, experimentation, and just letting yourself get lost in a strange, beautiful world. Would I recommend it at full price? Probably not, but if you find it on sale or have Game Pass, it's absolutely worth your time. Especially if you're between bigger releases and want something that still scratches that itch while we wait for The Elder Scrolls 6 and maybe Dragon Age 4 whenever that comes out. Hey everyone, Editing Mason here. I completely forgot Dragon Age The Veilguard came out last year. Yeah, that probably tells you how memorable that game was. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far and enjoyed the video, give it a like and a comment talking about your favorite RPG. Let's talk about games. If you really like the video, maybe subscribe. We're just a small channel of 3 friends who enjoy playing games, and to see us keep gaining new followers even with our non-existent upload schedule is heartwarming to say the least, and I do promise to upload more in the future. Thanks again everyone. I'll see you in the next video.